The Objective News Network Presidential Candidate Profiles for 2024. Welcome to the second in our series of reviews of the qualifications of the candidates running for president in the 2024 election. Last time, we looked at Ron DeSantis, the conservative Republican governor of the state of Florida. This time, we are going to take a look at Dean Phillips, a moderate Democrat serving in the U.S. House of Representatives. Just as we did the last time, we will use authentication to look across 18 areas of interest to American voters as they go to the voting booth in 2024 to elect their next president of the United States. So let's start off with the age of Dean Phillips. Dean Benson Phillips was born on January 20th, 1969. Authentication found no evidence that Mr. Phillips suffers from any debilitating sickness, disease, or mental impairment that would stand in the way of a successful, possible two-term presidency. Dean Phillips is Jewish and the first Jewish Minnesotan elected to the U.S. House of Representatives, representing Minnesota's 3rd Congressional District. Dean Phillips is a Gold Star son who lost his birth father in the Vietnam War. Dean was adopted into the Phillips distillery family when his mother married Eddie Phillips, a highly successful businessman. Dean Phillips had an upper-class upbringing and is one of the wealthiest members of Congress. He was raised in Edina, attended Brown University, and returned to Minnesota to earn his master's in business administration from the University of Minnesota's Carlson School of Business. After working in a variety of small startup companies, he worked his way up and eventually led his family's business, Phillips Distilling. He later went on to help build Talenti Gelato into one of the top-selling ice cream brands in the country, and he opened Penny's Coffee, a small business in the Twin Cities. Dean Phillips is currently serving the U.S. in the U.S. House of Representatives as a congressman, again for the 3rd District of Minnesota. He sits on the House committees on small business and foreign affairs. He has, however, announced that he will not be running for re-election to the House. Authentication found a dearth of data revealing any experience in national security matters. He has not served in the military. There is no evidence that Mr. Phillips has developed any strategic plan for how he would manage the national security challenges currently facing the United States if and when he is commander-in-chief. Mr. Phillips has some experience in foreign affairs from his tenure as a member of the Subcommittee on the Middle East, North Africa, and Central Asia in the U.S. House of Representatives. But there's a dearth of data showing his broader strategic positions on geopolitical affairs generally, except as it relates to his strong support of Israel and the October 7th outbreak of the Hamas-Israeli war. Mr. Phillips has consistently voted in line with President Biden's national policies. Although Mr. Phillips is engaged in sponsoring and supporting legislation dealing with the repeated debt ceiling crisis, his activities have been largely along Democratic Party lines and did not directly attempt to solve the much larger underlying problem of the exponential growth of the national debt. Dean Phillips has said, however, and I quote, "Addressing this crisis won't be easy, especially now. But I believe through fair tax policies, responsible budgeting, and a focus on economic growth, we can at least get on the right path," close quote, he says on his website. He has proffered no plan that we could find as to what he would specifically do to resolve the long-term problem with the exponential growth in the national debt. His, but he has also received a Fiscal Hero Award for 2027 from Fix the Debt, a project of the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget. Fiscal heroes are awarded by each Congress to recognize policymakers on both sides of the aisle who work to improve our nation's fiscal situation and fix the broken budget process on Capitol Hill. Phillips is one of only 7 House Democrats to receive the honor in the 117th Congress. Authentication found a dearth of credible data, indicating that Representative Phillips has developed any strategic plan to reduce the cost of national health care. However, he has some experience in Minnesota working across the healthcare system to increase the efficiency and reduce the cost of healthcare in Minnesota in line with current administration policies. In similar fashion, it does not appear that Mr. Phillips has any written plan containing any specifics as to how he would maintain the long-term solvency of the Social Security system. Authentication found no credible sources relating to the existence of any written strategic plan that could be further analyzed to determine its credibility. Authentication found that Mr. Phillips was active in developing and passing education-related legislation for the benefit of all Minnesotans. However, we found no credible sources where Mr. Phillips has defined a national policy plan with specifics on increasing national test scores, moving forward on more effective science, technology, engineering, and mathematical literacy, addressing parental concerns on the teaching of critical race theory and other national concerns regarding the quality of education in America. Dean Phillips, based on sponsored and co-sponsored legislation, would allow immediate expensing of research, development, or R&D costs, create a carbon fee and dividend, direct the Internal Revenue Service to provide online tax preparation and filing services, expand the child tax credit, revise the low-income housing tax credit, repeal the cap on SALT deductions, and make other changes to tax credits and deductions. Authentication also found that Mr. Phillips has been quite active in supporting legislation to manage the impacts of climate change and threats to the environment. There was, however, a dearth of information on any specific plan vis-a-vis energy independence and the respective roles of fossil fuels and renewable energy sources. Mr. Phillips has largely followed Biden administration energy policies. Mr. Phillips supports abortion rights, and after the U.S. House passed 2 bills protecting abortion access in the wake of the overturning of Roe v. Wade, he said, and I quote, "Abortion is health care, and I will protect women's rights to choose it, using every tool that our founders afforded to us," close quote. There is a dearth of information in which Mr. Phillips speaks to the current crisis of the southern border, except to say that immigrants at the southern border are being mistreated. He assaults the Biden administration for the mismanagement of the situation and criticizes Congress for failing to act, but he provides no strategy statement that we could find on exactly what he specifically thinks needs to be accomplished, by whom, and when to actually solve the crisis. Authentication found that Mr. Phillips is a strong supporter of law enforcement and very active in his home state of Minnesota. There was, however, a dearth of strategic documentation laying out any specific actions that he believes are required to reform the larger justice system in America. Authentication found much credible evidence that Mr. Phillips believes in the equality of all Americans. On the plus side, we found that Mr. Phillips is young and healthy enough to serve out 2 terms as President of the United States. He is a man of God. He is well educated and knows the meaning of hard work. He has experience working in the U.S. House of Representatives in the areas of small business and foreign relations that give him a leadership edge in these areas. His position on taxes is moderate. He is a strong supporter of law enforcement. On the downside, however, there are many strategic directions that are either unclear or a mixed bag because of a dearth of broadly published positions and supporting information on the issues of importance to the American voter. His exact positions on energy independence and the role of fossil fuels vis-a-vis renewable energy sources remains unclear. There's a dearth of data showing his position on geopolitical affairs generally, except as it relates to his strong support of Israel. We could find no evidence that he has proffered any specific plan as to what he would specifically do to resolve the long-term national debt crisis, which is the exponential and continuing rise of the national debt. There is a dearth of information in which he speaks in specific terms to the current crisis at the southern border, except to say that the problem has been mismanaged by the administration and Congress, and as a result, immigrants at the southern border are being terribly mistreated. Authentication found that Mr. Phillips is a strong supporter of law enforcement and very active in his home state of Minnesota. There was, however, another dearth of strategic documentation laying out the specific actions that he would take to reform the larger justice system in America. Authentication found a dearth of credible data indicating that Representative Phillips has developed a strategic plan that he will implement to reduce the cost of national health care. Now, to remain objective in this assessment of Mr. Phillips' qualifications for the presidency, it is necessary to point out that he is a relative newcomer to the list of presidential hopefuls. Over the next several months, it is likely that he will develop more detailed strategies and plans in these areas to share with the American people. It is what it is. We want to thank you for watching the Objective News Network. Next time, we will take a look at another candidate for president in 2024. In the meantime, please tell your family, friends, colleagues, and followers about us. Thanks again for watching, and please subscribe.